What's going on, everybody? It's time for another I Challenge You to Sound Design This clip. The cartoony clip that you saw at the beginning of this video is going to be the basis for this challenge. And as always, there's going to be a surprise stipulation, so make sure you watch until the very end of the video to figure out what that is. Also, don't forget, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Now, before we get to the rules of challenge number 4, first, we have to take a look at the entries that we got for challenge number 3. And just in case you forgot, challenge number 3 was to sound design a short animation provided by Twitter user Sleepy Grin. And the rule for this challenge was that you had to use a sound that I provided, which just so happened to be a metal spring doorstop. So without further ado, let's check out the entries. First up, we have a video from 4Low Digital. What I liked most about this one was that there was a lot of dynamic difference between the charge up and the blast that took place. This really helped add a lot of weight to that blast. It also had a really nice transient in there for when that blast happened. For the second half of the clip, I really liked how you used the metallic sounds in the sword swinging. You know, in real life, you would only hear just the whooshes, but that metallic sound really helped add a lot to that sword swing. And I really like that layer that you put in there. Next up, we have an entry from Drake K. This was another really nice dynamic change between the charge up and the blast. Now the blast to me kind of sounded like a post-processed trombone. Personally, I would have brought that down a little bit and then kind of brought everything back up as a whole. But overall, I really like that aesthetic. And for the second part, you can see kind of the difference in reference to the first video, where the first video kind of added that metallic sound. This one is more of the realistic whoosh swinging sounds. And you can see when looking at both videos that depending on what you're working on, it really does work both ways. Our next entry comes from Emiliano Matos. So whereas the first two videos had a really dynamic difference between the charge up and the blast, this one stayed more consistent through both of them, but still had a pretty defined transient once that blast started that I really liked. Now personally, I would have liked to have heard that blast get drawn out just a little bit longer to kind of cover the full animation. But quality-wise, it had a really nice sound to it. The second half of this clip is another great example of adding the metallic layer to the sword swing, even though it's not actually hitting anything. This is also where they layered in that doorstop sound. They actually included that in part of their video. The fourth video we're going to be taking a look at today comes from Jonas Frey. Now, when it comes to the first part of this clip, honestly, my favorite part was just the little twinkle to the kind of star animation that happens during that charge up. This really kind of helped the blast have more of a magical feel to it. Now, with the second part, while the sword swinging was great, and I talked about a lot of the sword swinging before, the fact that you paid attention to the body movements and the footsteps is really what sold it for me. And I really appreciate the effort of putting that in there. Last up, we have an entry from Mute Riot. Now, they must have seen the video where I mentioned how much I love 8-bit audio for this one, because hearing that 8-bit audio layered with more high-resolution sounds had a really nice touch to it. And I like that you did that for what sounded like the entire clip to really kind of help make it all cohesive. And I also really liked how the end of the blast had kind of a shimmer sound to it. So that was some of the entries that we got for I Challenge You to Sound Design This Clip number 3. I really want to thank everybody for taking the time to create something for that video. And I want to send a special shout out to Sleepy Grin for letting me use his animations in my clip. So as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, there's always kind of a stipulation or a rule that I try to impose with these challenges, just to try and give you guys an extra hurdle when doing sound design for these challenges. So for this clip, even though it's kind of a fun, cute, cartoon looking clip, I thought about having a wheel that we would spin and just randomly pick a genre. So that's what we're going to do. All right, so to help me pick out the theme or the genre for this sound design challenge, I found the website wheelofnames.com, and it lets you completely customize a wheel, which is what I've done here. And so you can see that we've got 6 different topics. And first of all, we have 8-bit. So every sound that is used in the sound design for this challenge has to be 8-bit audio. Next up, we have comedy, which is probably more in line with the visuals of this, you know, with it being a cartoon looking animation. Think funny sounds, you know, whether you want to go like kid friendly or, you know, just comedy in general. It's entirely up to you. Next up, we have action. So think just big blockbuster. What would it sound like if this tiny little cartoon animation was actually like, I don't know, a Michael Bay film? Next up, we have realism. So what would it sound like if it was actually in front of you? Just real, instead of a cartoon, everything was real. What would that sound like? The 5th thing that we have here is sci-fi. So think high-tech, futuristic, another world. You know, what does sci-fi mean to you? And apply that to the challenge. Lastly, we have, as I'm sure you guys know, my personal favorite genre, horror. What would it sound like if this cute, funny little cartoon just got a little dark and twisted? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click this wheel and see what we end up with. All right. So we've got action. So like I said, you know, think blockbuster, think, you know, Michael Bay, just something big, hyper realistic. That's going to be the theme for this sound design challenge. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys create for this cartoon animation using the action theme. And to enter, all you have to do is upload your final video to YouTube, make sure it's public, and make sure you use hashtag the sound effects guy in the title or the description. That way I can find it. If I can't find it, I can't show you guys off to the rest of the world. Also, don't forget to join the Sound Effects Guy Discord server. There will be a link down in the description below. Until next time.